Hi YouTube. So I'm Candace and I'm with Counseling Minus the Boy. I'm back to do a video today on unmasking PTSD in the Black community. So PTSD stands for post-traumatic stress disorder. With this disorder, it is basically being exposed or witnessing a traumatic event and having these symptoms because of this exposure or because of witnessing this traumatic event. So let's go a little deeper. I want to just encourage everyone to like, subscribe, and to share these videos and to also apply them as necessary to start on your journey for love, growth, and healing. So anyway, let's jump into it. I actually have my cheat sheet beside me. If you notice, some of the topics that I feel like are a bit on the that are a bit more prominent, I do want to make sure that I'm accurate. So I have my cheat sheet and let's go in. So PTSD, let's just go back to the definition, even though I explained it pretty briefly. So it is actually, it's a reaction to extreme stress that has been caused or threatened death or severe injury. It can include certain things such as like car accidents, national disasters, death, witnessing any type of threatening surrounding or environment. So let's say you went to the club and there was a shooting in the club, and you were in that moment protecting yourself, protecting others, trying to get out of the club, and also or if you were wounded or anything of that nature. That is another situation, as well as is always paired with, let's say, being in the Army or the Marines, or just being in the military and having that experience of having to see deaths or having to be in dangerous situations. So that is the breakdown for PTSD. Some of the common symptoms includes shame, survivor guilt, self-blame, lack of interest in usual activities, withdrawal from close relationships, and difficulty in self-soothing. So pretty much it mimics a lot of the depressive symptoms with isolating, with loss of interest, with not being able to kind of regulate your emotions, guilt, self-blame, and then this one also puts survivor's guilt. So let's go back to if you are in the Army or Marines or Navy and you have experienced some people that was in your group, and for lack of terminology, that lost their lives, or who had been through traumatic things, could have lost their lives, that lost an arm or anything. Just having that guilt that it happened to their group member and not them, or their group member is not alive and they made it. So just having that guilt. So you have great fear, you have helplessness, you're constantly experiencing the event. So it could be nightmares, it could be flashbacks. You're going to be triggered from different situations that's in everyday life. You have a loss of general responsiveness, and you're avoiding the situation. So you're avoiding going back to the club that you have been shot at, and you don't want to go to clubs altogether because of these flashbacks, because of these nightmares, because of this fear. So some of the things that we can do to kind of, as far as goals, treatment goals, is some things that you can do to work through this is CBT, of course. With CBT, cognitive behavior therapy, as we discussed in prior videos, you can use that to have exposure to the memory through discussion of the traumatic meaning. You develop coping skills, so you're learning how to deal with these triggers, with these flashbacks, with these nightmares, with your emotions about the situations, just talking about it, communicating, not withdrawing yourself from others, not getting back that same enjoyment that you had out of life when you're hobbies, with your everyday life interest. And then as well as exploring your emotions, talking about it, like I said, having your support system, communicating with them, just being honest. A lot of people, let's say they go to the army and they've seen things that happen on a daily basis and they lost friends and things, and then they come home and they have to adjust back to civilian life. And a lot of them withdraw and do not want to share what they have seen. So just being able to communicate, being able to talk about your emotions and let people know what's going on with you, and be honest with yourself that you may be having a hard time processing what you've seen. So that's one way. CBT, they also talk about some anxiety management. You can imagine seeing something traumatic and resulting getting anxiety or experiencing anxiety from it. So if you were at that club and you did, the club ended up being shot up or anything of that nature, producing anxiety about going to clubs, thinking about the club, the flashbacks and things of that nature can produce anxiety. And some things that you can do with anxiety, as we had mentioned in the stress and anxiety and feeling overwhelmed video, we talked about CBT with the rational beliefs and just kind of redeveloping your behavior and how you're thinking about things to healthier behaviors and thoughts. As well as relaxation techniques. So that's like muscle stretching. You can do this without people even noticing what you are doing. Stress balls, tightening your muscles and loosening them, deep breathing, things of that nature. It also talks about going to groups. So you have support groups you can go to. It's very accessible. You can find it online. They have support groups for everything, pretty much everything. There is a lack thereof in some areas, but it's support groups that you can find. It's online blogs if you are not comfortable going outside of your setting. I'm pretty sure you can find some videos on YouTube, as you have found here as well. So that various resources. Do not think that it's limited out here, because it's so much in 2020. The thing is finding it for yourself, or asking or for help, or accepting the help. Medication. So if you're really just having these nightmares and these triggers, and it's really just still causing an impairment in your everyday life, medication may be suggested and it may be needed. And it'll just help with some of the symptoms that you're experiencing and just help you to cope and to get through it. So it's not necessarily a bad thing. I am not the biggest on medication. However, I know that it is sometimes necessary. I wanted to briefly go through that, but I really want to talk about how prevalent that this is in the Black community. So coming in areas of the hood, quote unquote, the hood, I have stayed in these areas that are called the hood, and I have seen, I have heard, I have watched some of the things on the news, and there are a lot of things that's going on in our neighborhoods. Children are exposed to seeing things much earlier. They have access to see it on their phone, through social media. So not just children, adults, period. Anything you want to access is accessible now. And it's not necessarily a bad thing, because it's everything is so instant. You can find anything at a drop of a hat. But some things that you do get exposed to can be traumatic to you. If you're watching the news and they're telling you about these deaths, about these break-ins, about these things that's going on, it's just negative, it can produce anxiety. It can. It can give you that avoidance of not wanting to go outside, not wanting to go certain places. And also, more importantly, well, not more importantly, but also another key point is that it desensitizes when you are seeing this traumatic event. So you're like, oh, It's no big deal. I'm used to it. It happens all the time here. That is not normal. Just because it happens all the time does not take away that it's a traumatic event. So you're being exposed to these threatening situations, or you seeing these situations and witnessing these situations that are dangerous, that poses a threat to your life or others, and you're thinking like, oh, this just happens every day. That does not take away that that is not a traumatic experience. Like I said, it could produce anxiety, producing PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. Acute stress disorder is another stress disorder that's similar to this one, common in name. And yeah, it's not normal. Okay, when we're watching the news and we're seeing all of these things, it can be triggers for people who have PTSD. It can be triggers everyday life by hearing car horns, by certain lights. It can be a smell, just anything that remind you of that traumatic experience can be a trigger. So with this video, with going over these techniques, I hope that it can be applied, and it can be good for you if you're going through this battle of this journey. Like I said, just witnessing or just being in that moment of exposure to a traumatic event, it can bring on this disorder. And if you are experiencing these symptoms, there is a lot of people out here who have these symptoms, who have this disorder, and are not aware of what they are feeling or do not want to talk about it. But use your support system. Use your resources. If you do not have a support system, talk about it. Do the relaxation. Do the challenging your beliefs and your thoughts and creating healthy ones. Peace of mind is everything. And I know that is so simply said and it's harder to do. But in our community, this is something that we face every single day because what we see in our environment every single day. So just being aware that what you're going through may be this. Being aware that you may need other resources to kind of help you work through this. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with seeking counseling, with seeking advice, with seeking assistance to help you process things. And it's way better than keeping things inside and letting it bottle up and not letting others know what's going on with you and then finding out too late. So yes, I encourage you today to be able to identify PTSD, to start your journey with loving growth and healing, and to just being a healthier person, just spiritually, mentally. I know this tax season, a lot of people are talking about financially stable, but it's more important to be whole of yourself. And that's a bit of Gestalt therapy, Gestalt therapy, where whole, mind, soul, body, and just being self-aware of yourself and accepting it. So I want to end at that note. Just remember, just to be whole. Consider the whole package. Remember the bigger picture: love, growth, and healing, mind, body, soul, spiritually. And I wish you all the best journey. And I'm proud of you if you're going along on this journey. And even if you're not, even if you're just watching the video to get some awareness, I'm proud of you. Okay? And I'll see you next time in the next topic. Bye.